Let's think back about legal cases involving the Islamic holy man called the Blind Sheikh, who was accused of instigating or masterminding the original bombing of the trade towers back in '93, I think. A communist organization of lawyers, perhaps called the National Lawyers Guild, I'll have to check, provided this man aid and comfort. Not just legal advice, but helped him to communicate with his followers who were terrorists bent on causing havoc in the United States. Skip ahead a few years to the war on terrorism. George Bush detained some combatants in this war and held them prisoner at a detainment camp known as Guantanamo Bay, or Gitmo. Legal people, supposed legal scholars, attempted to use our Constitution and our laws to confer upon these combatants, for lack of a better word, U.S. citizenship. Tried to portray them as suspects of crimes who were entitled to rights. They were not enemy combatants. They were the people protected by the United States Constitution. Should have been, for example, read Miranda rights. You have a right to a lawyer. You have a right to a trial. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Court of law. No, this is a total twist. These folks at Gitmo are not, for the most part, U.S. citizens. Those who are U.S. citizens should be judged by the legal system, by the courts of the United States, as criminals, as traitors. With this in mind, consider a motive of those who would create division in our country, in our education system, among our children, by instigating a debate, a false debate, regarding evolution and creationism. If this is instigated, like so many other cases, by communists and communist sympathizers and communist dupes, this is yet another attack on America, seeking to weaken, disrupt, to confuse, and demoralize America. The communists, in other words, are seeking an entry, a point of weakness, as they do everywhere else, some way to disorient, to confuse, to hassle, to harass, to disrupt our country. We should sniff the air for the smell of communists whenever we debate the so-called conflict between creationism and evolution. Well, how do you know what sarin gas smells like? How can you detect the presence of communists among you if you have no idea what they look like, what they smell like, what they sound like? If you've never seen a duck, how can you identify a duck? First of all, communism masquerades as an economic theory. It is not. Communism masquerades as the idea that people will be better off if the state owns all means of production, or at least most of the means of production. Adolf Hitler advocated communism, or state capitalism. He didn't own all the means of production, but he owned or controlled most of the means of production in Nazi Germany. The name Nazi stands for National Socialist Democratic Party in German. He was another flavor of the socialism or the Marxism propounded by Vladimir Lenin and the Bolsheviks. There were other flavors. Communism cannot create wealth. It must consume wealth. Think of it as cancer. A cancerous tumor in your body has no benefit to the body. It only robs the body of resources. It spreads. Communism is an ideology for takeover. Communist revolution is an ideology of expansion, takeover, acquisition. It is actually the means by which criminal-minded people can take control of the wealth of others. Communism is not an idea putting forth the notion that we should share our own goods, our own tools, our own food, our own fields, our own houses. Communism does not advance the idea that we should share our belongings with our friends. Communism is an ideology. It is a theory for conquest. Communism consumes and leaves a trail of ruin and despair and poverty and blood and corpses in its wake. That's what communism is. It is a theory of conquest. Think of the communist as the mafia. The mafia doesn't do anything good for society. It is a cancer on society. Communism is a worldwide spreading virus, cancer, disease, illness, plague. Because communists don't advocate that they share their wealth with one another. The communists advocate that they take your wealth from you.